Hello there. Hello there.
How we doing there, boys and girls? Good morning. Well. What an evening yesterday was. How we doing, boys and girls? I feel like today it might be time for a TED Talk. I have a sneaky feeling. Also, a little milestone that's only really a milestone for me and not really interesting to anybody else is that on Twitch we surpassed 100,000 views yesterday, which is for live streaming I think is pretty impressive. Interesting how I asked about rumours yesterday, and in the same day we get an announcement. Well, it's it was leaked the other day. I just dismissed it as I didn't really think there was too much to it. More importantly, I didn't really look into the leak. I was aware of it, but I didn't really think much would come from it. But apparently something did. So, yay, let's have a party. Well, we're going to talk about it in a little bit of detail, obviously, today. I imagine there was two for those joining nice and early this morning, for the notification squad of you out there. Two sizable announcements came from Blizzard yesterday. One of which hit the community or hit the player base pretty hard. The other one is a nice to have. Everybody's wanted it for a long time. Firstly, boosting has had some policy changes.
Let's make sweet profit together.
Hey, there you go, Kahani, getting your icon back. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for the biddies. Who doesn't love some nice juicy biddies? First thing was, yes, boosting being the policy regarding boosting, or more importantly, the advertising of boosting and the organized level of boosting. Yeah, ironically, still in my chat window, I'm seeing people a character with the name Raid Boost. Mythic Guild 10 out of 10, Wanna Sell, SOD, Heroic, KT 60k, Sylvanas 90k, both 140k, blah 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 /W for info. So this is the thing, right? Trade chat although it was a remarkably quiet evening in trade chat, it won't last for long, because one thing we will get into detail about in all the detail, we will go through all the detail, is that boosting is not banned. This is just multi-boxing all over again. It's so amusing to see. There'll be this huge clusterfuck of chaos initially. People diving off the deep end, people swinging from the rafters, people singing their, till their lungs don't work anymore. That boosting has been banned. Boosting has not been banned. They've cut the head off the Hydra. That's all they've really done with this change. But we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail later. I want to get a few things sorted first thing this morning. I wasn't even planning on streaming today, if I'm going to be honest. But we can't not do a stream when two of probably the largest announcements we've had for a while. Here's to hoping that they weren't the only announcements that Blizzard have this week. It would have been really, I was really hoping one of the announcements would be a 9.2 release date. But if they were the two announcements, I'm happy about them. But yes, the policy change on boosting and the first initial looks that Blizzard are working on allowing cross-faction play to be a thing. Both topics, while the boosting thing, I wouldn't go as far as to say I was certain they weren't ever going to do anything about it, but it's a big balls move from Blizzard to make a broad policy change on boosting. It's a broad move from Blizzard because, without question, boosting generates Blizzard a lot of money. And they are basically chopping the udders off their cash cow by doing this. So it's a big, brave move from Blizzard, but it's a really, really positive move to see them do. And I'm glad they've got the balls to do it. It goes to show that it hadn't got so far past, the point of no return. It hadn't gone so far past the point of no return that they weren't able to do something about it. Which is good. It's nice. I appreciate that, Blizzard. Thank you. Just had to secure the cash cow that is Microsoft. Well, that's true. You had to get that bag first. Make sure the bag was secure. And then run with it. Yeah, maybe. But we'll talk about it all in a little bit more detail. I want to put together something. I want to get some notes down for this. I almost thought about doing a video about it last night, a sort of fresh live reaction to it. I was watching and joining in with Zanzaful on his stream yesterday, and there was a huge amount of different opinions on the policy changes to boosting. And I thought I'd give it 24 hours. I thought I would let the dust settle a little bit, maybe try and assess some people's opinions, maybe try and see it from some different angles, and then maybe put some notes together and TED talk it out. We'll do that in a little bit once I've got some coffee in me. It's still early for me. Manthe turning into a reaction, Andy. Never. Manthe reacts. Don't give me more ideas for YouTube channels. Holy shit. Because I will do it. Right, let's get some stuff. Let's get some expireds. Or soon to expire. Oh my god, 20 minutes. Blizzards. 23-hour listings, please. I'm going to have to start posting everything for 12 hours just so this doesn't happen every day. This is literally one of the biggest frustrations for me, is that every day my auctions seem to get pushed further and further back. Alright, fine. Well, we're going to have to just do a big old cancel scam then. Make sure you get a license from the Fine Bros. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get sued for using the word react. Ooh, too soon? No, surely not. Surely not. But yes, true to say that it was quite an interesting evening yesterday. Find a squirrel for 20 minutes. I think there's going to be plenty of squirrels. I don't think I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think we'll get much constructive done today. I think most of the stream will devolve into just chatting about the two big notices that we had yesterday. The cross-faction play, though, is something that I'm very happy to see Blizzard also doing that. We were talking about this a little while, and I kind of came to the conclusion that Blizzard can't afford to not do it. This is the thing. Regardless of what the lore, and regardless to what the storyline, and regardless to what the history of the game is, the matter of the fact is Blizzard do not have enough people playing this game to cut them in half before you even start. Back in the day when they had 8 million, 10 million, 12 million players, you could split them in half and you still had more players in each half than you had in any other game. That's not the case anymore. It's one of those situations where they almost can't afford to not allow Horde and Alliance to play together. Now, of course, there's going to be lots and lots of things to work out. People are already sort of brainstorming different ways that this could break the game, and questioning how Blizzard are going to, how is it going to control, if you join a group, if you're Alliance and you join a group with some Horde, then does that mean you can transfer consumables? Will those consumables then be bind on pickup? Will it turn into money? There's so many questions that people have. Ultimately, though, I think in instance-based content, having Horde and Alliance being able to play with each other is, it's almost a necessity now. The majority of the end game gameplay evolves around these instanced pieces of content. Whether you're running dungeons, whether you're running raids, whether you're running battlegrounds. World content is, unfortunately, even though this is an MMO RPG, full world, simulator almost, the real world stuff plays only a small percentage of what the actual end game really is nowadays. So I think it makes sense that, put people in a group together and let people play together. It kind of, now of course Blizzard came out and they tried to justify it, and in typical Blizzard way, they tried to sell it as if they came up with the idea, and that it's now acceptable because they had a realization that actually, they came out with some guff that was just PR speak. basically they were saying, yeah, we don't have enough players anymore to segregate everybody. Let's let everybody just play together and have done with it. But we'll go through the blue posts. We'll go through the announcements because I think there's a lot of people that will be interested in this today. Yesterday made a Shaman, the only class that I haven't tried. Turned out it's quite a fun one. Shamans are quite fun. Shaman goblins always look funny. They hopping about, throwing, you know, fireballs all over the place. Or whatever it is that shamans cast. I've not played a shaman for quite a while. I have a shaman. My shaman is my alchemist, who has the Vial of the Sands recipe. So I keep them around for that one reason and that one reason alone. Imagine merging all the servers. Server mergers is something that is a topic of conversation that comes into play with both of yesterday's announcements. One of the very first things people started talking about when people started to understand about the changing to boosting. One of the very first complaints is, well, how are these, you know, how are people on low population servers going to do anything anymore? Now, it's an argument that I think is a very weak argument in the first place. It's one of those things that you could sort of summarize in your head that is a possible thing, that something that might be, you know, the way a player plays the game. But in reality, like I said, we'll talk about this in detail in a little bit more of an organized fashion in a bit. That in reality, people playing on low population servers were probably not necessarily the ones buying the boosts in the first place. Kind of like, once again, kind of like the multi-box situation. If you make a sweeping policy change like this, there are going to be some innocent parties that get caught in the crossfire. But, you know, a few casualties here and there is worth it for the greater good of the game. And I think it's really positive to see Blizzard take this approach. In a game where it's slowly but surely devolving into a more pay-to-win game, it's really nice to see Blizzard step in and say, right, well, we need to pull the reins back on this a little bit. This is getting a little bit out of hand, and we're going to do that by starting off by doing this. And I use the phrase starting off deliberately because I don't think this is the only thing that we're going to see regarding... I think this is just literally the start. Just like we had a couple of multi-box policy changes before we got to the situation where we're in now, where, you know, basically multi-boxing is dead. It's still not against the terms of service to do it, but it's far less impactful on the overall game than it once was. I think this will be the first nail in the coffin for boosting being the same, right? They kind of need to start by chopping the head off the Hydra, getting rid of the super high level organized, almost a word that was used very frequently yesterday, jumping through some streams and whatever, was agencies. And that's what these boosting communities basically were. They were operating as agencies. They were connecting people with people, and they were taking a cut for doing it. Getting rid of those is the first step in creating a more what's the right sort of words to use here? More inclusive, more fulfilled economy in the game. And I'm not talking about economy purely in the auction house level monetary basis economy. I'm talking about high level players playing with medium skilled players, playing with new players, and mixing the pool up a little bit, giving people an equal opportunity, allowing the good players to rise to the top if they wish, but not segregating the player base even further. when I set up on a high population server, I couldn't believe the amount of adverts. My low pop server had none. Let's see, on the smaller servers, there was no incentive for these people to be advertising that heavily, for the very simple reason that why bother running a character on an account on a low pop server when you could be doing the exact same thing on a high pop server and multiply your success. Your success was directly linked to how many people were playing on that server. Hence, the smaller servers, the boosting spam wasn't a problem. But that's because the boosters weren't advertising there. It wasn't worth their while to advertise there. They were all advertising on the top 4 or 5 realms in each region for the fact that that's where 90% of the players are. I must admit though, it's I don't usually actually have trade chat open, for the obvious reason that it's up until this point basically always been just totally useless. There's not been any need for having it open because I wasn't interested in buying a boost. That's basically all it turned into. So it's going to be interesting to see what the conversation is like in /2 going forward. It was easy just being able to run a quick key. For that reason, I will miss the boosting discords. Well, the see is the boosting discords will still exist. This is the thing, right? The thing is it just, like I said, it doesn't kill boosting. It just kills organized boosting. If you want. If you know, the thing is that the top guild on your, and this is why it's going to be good overall. It's going to promote guild and server communities a lot more so. That the top guild on your server will likely be the go-to people to get that boost. They will still be able to supply, they will still be able to have a couple of spots in their raid and bring people along and charge them gold for it. It keeps things a lot more localized. That will still be a thing that you'll be able to do. If you want to get your 15 key for the week done, you can still approach somebody for that to be fulfilled. But the thing is, you'll just be approaching somebody different. Rather than heading up to an agency that may put you in a group with a bunch of players that play on X, Y, or Z realm, you'll probably be being boosted by the same people week on week if that's your play style. You'll be directly contributing to the wealth of certain individuals on your realm. It increases the incentive for people on low pops to migrate to higher pops in that way too. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's definitely a situation to where people playing on a low pop. Now, this is one thing I want to clarify before we get too deep into this. I know we said we'd talk about this in detail later on, but we're already starting. In my opinion, I don't feel that the amount of people on low population servers that are taking their credit card out their pocket week on week to buy tokens to get the gold to pay for boosts are really that great. I honestly feel that the people that play on low population servers nowadays are, for the most part, I hate the word, but they're incredibly casual players. They're not the kind of players that care so much about having the cutting edge achievements. They might be more casual in that regard, and it speaks to reason that's why they're still on a low population server. Some people get stuck on a low population server because their server was once a high population server and they've played on that realm for 10 years. Those players are slightly different. Those players have a reason to not want to transfer everything because they would have to transfer everything. they'd have to literally up sticks and move their entire operation somewhere else. Or just go back to 0 and start again, which equally some people don't want to do. But I think the majority of people that play on low population servers are probably either very casual players or new players. That they just, they started playing the game and they saw the server list and they just picked a server. And those people are far less invested in the game in the first place. And I think if those people need to move servers, they'll move servers and they won't even bat an eyelid doing it. I don't think they'll feel additionally, more importantly, I don't really feel that they were probably the players that were frequently buying boosts in the first place. Can't afford to pay for that server transfer for 30 characters. Well, yeah, that's true. If you've played on a realm for a long ass time, it's difficult to move your whole operation, that's for sure. Somehow there are cutting edge guilds even on the lowest pop servers in the EU. I feel bad for their recruitment officers. It's I think this is, like I said, this is the first step in trying to promote a more of a localized community feel. I haven't quite worked out how to articulate exactly my feelings on this yet, but the way I see it is that there's basically there's almost a class system in WoW now. You have your upper class, which is your elite players, which is usually where you would consider the mythic raiding guilds to sit. These are usually the players that are pretty good at what they do. They've often played the game for quite a period of time. They know the ins and outs of it. They're pretty skilled at what they do. There's usually then the middle cluster of people, which is arguably the biggest cluster of people, which is everybody that's played the game for a reasonable amount of time. They're not the best at what they do. They like to dabble here and there. They enjoy playing the game, but they're not super hardcore about it. And then you tend to have the newer of the player base, or the lesser skilled players, or the more casual players below that. The ones that are likely to do a lot of the more world content. They might pug a few mythics here and there. There's sort of 3 levels or 3 tiers of player, I think, in this game. What the over ease of boosting or being able to find a boost was doing was sucking dry that middle section of the player base, leaving only 2 sections and this huge gap in the middle. And an MMO can't work without a fair representation of all those different 3 players. You can't just have super geared, really skilled players, because they then can't do what they can do because they don't have the rest of the players to farm the materials for them and stuff. You need players at all different skill levels for the game to even function properly. And sucking dry that middle section. People that were to the lower end could never really get into the middle section, and people who were in the middle section couldn't easily get to the top section because they could buy a boost to get the achievements, but they still couldn't get the skill to get there. And people in that middle section had really no options of where to go or what to do, and so were the candidates that were probably now playing Final Fantasy. Let's hear it for the middle class. It's really difficult to use that analogy without turning it into a class system, which is gross in the first place. But hey, it's how cultures work. It's how communities work. Like I said, it's an MMO. It relies on the fact that you have people of different skill levels to facilitate all aspects of the game. When I was hardcore raiding, we used to pay the server transfer costs for the person's main character that we were recruiting. Yeah, I'm sure that would be entirely a feasible thing to do. Started on a medium pop server. As I got more knowledge and involvement in the game, I regret going to such a server. Different servers suit different types of people's playstyle as well, to a degree. Not everybody enjoys the super hustle and bustle of a full pop server, but you know, it's the experience of playing an MMO is usually better when there is, you know, multiple people. So, I mean, sometimes you like your peace and quiet, sure, we get that, but for an MMO to function effectively, you need a mass of players. Even if you don't feel that you interact fully with the masses of the players, you're still playing your part in that server dynamic. So it becomes difficult when you take too many people out of the system. It's how the civilization is run for millennia, even if we don't like it. Yeah, kind of. That's kind of the thing. I mean, you can have different tiers or higher. You can have hierarchies or tiers or classes or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's just the natural way that societies build themselves.
Let's make sweet, sweet profit together.
Smooth George, thank you very much for the Prime Gaming. I appreciate you donating your Bezos bucks to me. Thank you, thank you. 3 months. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. Anybody else got those Bezos bucks for me? I'm more than happy to take them off your hands. If there were not players like me, then the good players would be average. Oh, Elias. Ah. Very true. If everybody's a hero, the heroes become normal. Right, let's get some stuff listed, though. I want to get some auction housey stuff just bashed through real quickly. I don't have the need for any restocks or anything of such. So it's quite simply getting stuff relisted today, and then we can dive down and maybe get the notepad out and maybe even paint. I have a feeling that we might need paint today. How do Bezos bucks work? Well, Prime Gaming is basically Bezos bucks. If you sub to a channel with your Prime Gaming, it doesn't necessarily cost you any additional because you're already paying for your Amazon Prime account. But you get the perks of being subscribed to the channel, and the streamer then receives the same as what they would from a regular tier 1 sub. So it's you support the streamer at no additional cost to yourself, whilst putting a few bucks in the streamer's back pocket at the same time. It's just annoying how Blizzard insists on making money from everything. Why not make server transfers free, or race transfers, or name changes? It's been a bit of a contentious thing, the whole charging for server transfers. But at the same time, yeah, to use a Blizzard phrase, transferring servers should be at least somewhat a meaningful decision. Otherwise, people would transfer servers daily or weekly, or you have to have some limitation on being able to move your characters about to incentivize the building of communities. If you can, otherwise you'd have people literally transferring all over the place every day for multiple different reasons. It'd be chaos. It'd be absolute chaos. Now, obviously, yeah, like Seducer's just said, you could set some sort of limitation on it, rather than it being a financial limitation. But there has to at least be something in place. Freely allowing everybody to transfer around would just be chaos. EU has too many servers that are low or medium population. This is something that's been brought to light quite recently, that the EU servers haven't had any serious mergers for a long ass time. And even when some mergers did occur, they didn't really fix anything. If you put 5 low population servers together, you still probably don't even get a medium population server. You need to merge these low population servers in with some of the high population ones. So yeah, it's very, and especially considering in the last few years, it's quite clear that the player base has dwindled considerably. That there are some realms out there that I imagine feel very empty. And it's, if I'm honest, it's one of those situations where you probably don't realize it until it's shown to you. Ignorance is bliss in that regard. If you've played on a low population server for your entire time of playing this game, you quite simply, through not any fault of your own, have no idea quite what the difference is when you move to a high population server. You honestly don't, you don't feel the benefits because you just know what you always know. Sure, if you're trying to progress on a low pop server and you find it really tough to find groups to do X, Y, and Z, then you've naturally acquired the temptation to move to a bigger server. But a lot of players, when they first pick up the game, they open the game, they create a character, they click on one of the names on the list. They probably don't pay too much attention to the server population. They probably just go, oh, I'll pick someone in the middle. Boom, happy medium. And then that's where they live. It's not, and most players, you've got to remember, most players of the game, they don't really engage too much with an external community. We're the exception to the rule, right? If the fact that you're actively choosing to watch another content creator play the game actually puts you in the minority of the player base instantly. Most players, they play the game and they probably don't watch YouTube videos about it. They probably don't watch live streams about it. They play the game, they enjoy the game that they play. These are the 90% of the player base. Dentag and Torin Mill was the most useless merge. I mean, I don't know the full specifics, but Torin Mills has been a pretty large server for quite a while now, as far as I'm aware. Or they end up picking the new player suggested servers. That's also very true, because why would you not? If you don't know anything about the game, and welcome in, Kitty. Welcome, good to see you. If you don't know anything about the game, you're brand new to the game, and the game suggests that you play on this server, many people are going to take that suggestion as a good suggestion. Now, most of us know that if you're going to create a brand new character, most of the time, those new player servers are tragically bad servers. Especially, I mean, they're probably good servers to kind of start learning the game on. Sure, do your leveling, whatever. But very quickly, you're going to realize that you want to be somewhere else. None of the highly organized group content is going to exist on the new player servers. My first character was Alliance on a 99% Horde low pop server. Imagine my shock after transferring to a full pop Alliance server. Yeah, see, this is it. You just assumed that there was just huge masses of red players all the time. New series, 1 copper to 1 million new player server. The economies actually are usually not that bad on new player servers, because you've usually got a lot of, leveling characters. That's a topic for another day. You know what frustrates me about the merges? I specifically joined a server with 95% plus alliance, so I wouldn't ever see any horde. Yet anytime I go to do any world quests or Korthia or whatever, all I see is hordes tagging my quest mobs. Well, that's probably more down to, you know, phasing and cross realm zones. Yes. I don't object to the idea of paying for server transfers, etc. It's paying for a service that is happening, but the amount they charge for it is what's criminal. Yeah, I understand. I get that, but equally, the avenue of the game that I play has taught me over time that value is one of the most subjective things. Because you got to remember that $15 is literally a drop in the ocean to some people, whilst to others it's a sizable amount of money. There's no way to, you know, go around that. Blizzard probably try to balance these things. You know, it needs to be an annoyingly enough amount so that people don't do it willy-nilly too frequently. And yes, willy-nilly is a word. But it has to be not so expensive that everybody complains their ass off about it all the time. There has to be a happy medium there somewhere, but... Ah, bags are full. Okay, get posting. I can't concentrate on two things at once. Can you tell? $60 is a game, $15 is a DLC. No matter how much money that is to you, there's price anchors that exist. Yeah. Obviously, people compare value in something relative to other things. And this is why the outroar for the... when TBC, just before Classic TBC came out, them trying to charge people, what was it originally? It's like $40 or something. Something literally outrageous to transfer your character, or to duplicate your character, I should say, until they finally saw the light and reduced it. So there's always that happy medium there. But, you know, they're a company that loves to make money, so what can you say? Like the level 60 boost, people see value in paying $60 for it. I see value if it was $20. Yeah, this is it. So some people, like I said, value is super subjective. Some people think it's acceptable amount of money. Some people think it's super duper. Like some people will pay $60 to not have to level a character again in a heartbeat. Some people would pay that in a heartbeat. And people do. And so hence Blizzard can get away charging it. And if enough people are out there that will quite happily pay $60 for a pre-leveled character over leveling one themselves, then they will continue to charge $60 for it. Now the argument stands, sure, that as the amount of time it takes to level has decreased expansion on expansion, paying that $60 for a pre-leveled character becomes less of a value proposition to most, but it's kind of up to Blizzard to decide the price, unfortunately. Some people think spending $100 to get drunk on a Friday is perfectly fine, but will cringe at spending money on decent, healthy food. Yeah, the way that people spend their money is entirely their prerogative. One level 60 boost or 4 pints? How much are your pints? But yes, it's all relative. I'm old enough to remember pound a pint. And yeah, me too. Pound a pint was always a good night. Go out with a tenner and still have money. You'd go out with a tenner. You'd save £4 for your kebab. £3 for your taxi. I once had to pay €30 in a well-known Ibiza nightclub for a vodka Red Bull. People seemed fine paying that. Yeah. People do silly things with their money. Still get £1 pints of water. Yeah. Tap water at that. Not that fancy sparkling shit. Tap water. Waiter, I will have your finest tap water, please. It's not just a level boost though. Doesn't it have the gear and bags boost as well? Not done it in a while, so I can't remember if you can cheat the profession boost too or not anymore. I don't think the profession thing is a thing anymore. I mean, I should know because I can't remember the last time I actually leveled a character properly. I don't think the profession thing is a thing. And it used to be that you had to level the character to 20 or something first to then boost it to get the profession bump and I can't remember how it works. I just ignore it anyway. Having to level half of it to get extra bonuses when you boost always felt weird. If they've removed all of that stupidity, then I'm all in favour for that. Because that was a bit weird in the first place. Only the finest tap water for Sir Manthius. Living the high life now. I drink Evian. No, I really don't. Tap water. I live in Finland. Tap water is probably cleaner than Evian. I'm quite sure the water that comes out my taps here has been touched by far less people than if I was to buy bottled water. Oh, bag's full again, of course. That third world country, America. Most places in the EU tap water is fine to drink. Yeah, I think that's relatively true. Missed the start of the stream. You talked about the token price yet? No, we've not really talked about anything in too much detail as of yet. I wanted to give people an opportunity to roll in before we dive in the deep end with these topics of conversations. I don't. A quick TLDR on the token situation, though. I don't think it'll have any. The boosting thing, I don't think it'll have any effect on the token. All right, is that's nearly everything. We can take our monies. What did we sell yesterday? What was the grossest thing we sold? Bone Shatter Greaves for 97 is pretty outrageous. 110 for an Umberhide Vest is definitely outrageous. Dread Feather Gloves of the Quick Blade. No idea what those even are. But somebody gave me 1,500 gold for them, so happy. And some stuff. Alright, cool. Stuff. Once again, I think I spent more gold yesterday than I made, but it's fine. As long as we at least break even with our expenditure at the moment, I'm a happy man. Let's get these last few things listed. I remember being quite surprised as a kid when I heard that you couldn't drink tap water when on holiday. Yeah, you don't want to go to Spain and drink tap water. You'll get the shits. Not good. I mean, apologies if you're Spanish and take offense to that, but your water is basically green.
Is that your wallet? Or are you just glad to see me? Both, I hope.
Oh, Roscoe with a tier 1. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. With your real monies. Real monies. Thank you. Appreciate it. Trust me, you don't want the shits. No, you don't. You definitely don't. What's going on here? Hang on. Let's check some prices real quick. Desolate leather, sub 3 gold. Sub 3 gold desolate leather. How is this not a bargain? Oh god, I really didn't want to have to buy all of this desolate leather. Sure. What else have we got going on here? Leystrite ore, no thanks, too expensive. Phaedrum ore is actually... Wow. The hell's going on here? Alright, sure. Solanum at 16 is technically less than what I've been paying for it. What have I been paying for it on average? 18. Well, let's just buy all of that then. Oh, that's like 2,000 gold worth of Solanum. I probably shouldn't even bother. Oxane at 18. No, still a little bit more expensive than I want. Although I am running low on Oxane, or it might not be a bad idea to buy up some of this. Delhi Belly is the 21st century holiday to Spain illness. Yes. Yes. Delhi Belly. I've not heard that for a long time. Sinvir ore is chilling there. 28 gold for lightless silk. God damn. I told you. Post it at 25 and I'll buy all of it. I'm not paying 30. Heavy desolate at... Oh my... I'm starting to wonder at what point do I decide that I have too much heavy desolate leather? 22,000 heavy desolate leather feels like a lot, but it only feels like a lot until it's not a lot anymore. Mickey Flanagan's stand-up routine about having the shits is very funny. Mickey Flanagan is just hysterical all the time. But yes, his one about getting the shits is remarkably funny. And with the lightest of pushes, the world fell out my ass, I think is the punchline from that one. You gonna go out? You're gonna go out? Yeah. Once had a pen pal from Switzerland come visit me in Denmark. Her mum had packed toilet paper and money for water in 1992. It only feels like a lot until it's not a lot anymore. Hey, nothing but only the finest life advice from this amateur goblin. There's never too much heavy desolate leather. Now you see, this is my thought on it. There is never too much heavy desolate leather. And I suspect very heavily, I very heavily suspect that come patch 9.2, I mean, I even put out a video about it last night, that I suspect greatly that the leather prices will increase. Now, the question becomes, though, is... one of the questions is the higher tier leather is most probably going to be in super high demand. The problem is there might not necessarily be the dump for the lower level stuff. By the lower level stuff, I mean desolate leather specifically. Now, it can be vended at a certain point, but desolate leather highly relies on the price of pallid bones also playing fair game. You want to try and get the combination of a piece of desolate leather and a pallid bone for that of about 5 gold or less. If you can achieve that, then you can shuffle it or vendor shuffle it and turn a profit. But you are relying on buying 2 different items, which is where the complications arise. Where's my spreadsheet? What are we doing here? Why are we... okay. Where's my spreadsheet gone? More importantly, where's my vendor shuffle sheet? Oh, it's so bright. I really need to dark mode this one. Where's leather? So 3 gold, 50 for your desolate leather. Most of your actual leather shuffling is not going to be valuable. It's pretty much entirely... Yeah, you got to go some way to make the arm guards actually profitable to shuffle from a vendor perspective. Requiring both bones and leather. Yeah, it still falls heavily on the composite bow, which needs almost an equal share of pallid bones to leather. You need a total of 11, and it needs to come to a value of less than 89 gold. It needs to come to a total of 89 gold and leave you good enough room to make it worth you bothering to do. If you can get your... What have I got this set to? Pallid bones at 1.5 and desolate leather at 3.5. Yeah, so there we go. That's assuming that you can... If you buy one of each, that it totals up to less than 5 gold. That's kind of the number I try to keep in my head. That if I can get these two for less than 5 gold as a combined price, then it's kind of technically a soft floor price on those materials. So you can pay 50 silver more for the bones if you're getting your leather for 50 silver less. Other areas in the bear area in like the bear area in Korthia in Zereth Mortis, like with really heavy density of skinnable mobs. There's actually there's at least one very, very good skinning location in Zereth Mortis that we have tested previously. So good, in fact, that it almost hyper spawns because it's the mobs are part of the campaign. You have to kill them as part of the campaign at some point, which may allow for a lot of leather to hit the market if people are proactive. The downside, though, is that the mobs do not seem to drop the new leather. They only drop the, let's call it, the existing leathers. Meaning that people might be, the money still might be in the new stuff, but we don't know. I equally am still to this day waiting on them balancing these things. We're gonna have to go PTR mode, aren't we? Crafter's Mark of the Summon. These things, Crafter's Mark, are the first ones. Currently, see this? 30 heavy desolate leather is the reason why I'm not too concerned with having a sizable amount of this. Because if I need 30 for every one of these, it's, I'll need a lot of it either way. Either 30 heavy desolate leather or the equivalent of 300 desolate leather. Either or. But I still don't think these have been balanced anyway. Additionally, let's duplicate this one real quick and look at Crafter's Mark 4 for comparison. Crafter's Mark 4. Yeah, see, this is where the concern is, right? Crafter's Mark 4, as it stands at the moment, doesn't need any leather. That's scary, right? That's quite scary. It puts a big emphasis on bones. But like I said, I'm equally quite confident that this isn't balanced. So, basing decisions on this is maybe not too sensible yet. What is this? Holy Jesus, what is this? Mother of all Lord. This is your vendor shuffle sheet. Oh, so anything in this green is where your profit lies. Okay. I see. My guild banks of bones will pay off now. Well, maybe, yeah. Maybe, but like I said, we don't really know yet, because these are not, at least in my opinion, these are not finalized values. But if it stays like this, Pallid Bones might take a spike. But yeah, and in turn, then it would be really weird if Desolate Leather and Pallid Bones kind of switched places in terms of price. It'd be really odd. Off the back of what has been, I mean, for reference, the reason Desolate Leather has maintained its value so aggressively is because of. Let's see if we can, if I can type. Where's it? Crafters Mark 3. Where's it gone? Crafters Mark 3. This Crafters Mark 3 using 3 heavy Desolate Leather. And a heavy callous hide and 25 bones. This is what's played quite a big part in keeping the price of Desolate Leather, you know, reasonable. Because that's the equivalent of 30 Desolate Leather for every single 200 item level piece. Then when you look at that compared to Crafter's Mark of the Chained Isle, that then uses 40 heavy Desolate Leather, so the equivalent of 400 Desolate Leather in each craft, is doing its work, chunking away at a lot of this Desolate Leather that's turning up. So it's totally possible that Pallid Bones will stay that way. That's exactly how they quote-unquote balanced Silk in 9.1. Yeah, you can never rely on Blizzard to do the sensible thing. There is a strong likelihood that they will, you know, do something completely wackadoodle. And yes, wackadoodle is also another word of the day. Not quite as ridiculous as 500 Shrouded Cloth or 80 Lightless Silk Mine, but still ridiculous. Anyway, where did we get to? Was I buying any more materials? I don't think I was actually buying any more materials. At least not any cheap materials. Elythium ore, I've got more than enough Elythium ore. I actually need to burn through a lot of this Elythium ore quite quickly, or do something with it. Blizzard's silk balance was atrocious. Yeah, they took one look at Area 52 on the NA realm and was like, oh, lightless silk is 2 gold each. Oh, okay, sure. And thought no more of it. Really? $423. All right. Korthite crystals. How many do we have? Not huge quantities of them. What's my... Should we just go to there? That's another 10 Legos. Right, there we go. We've spent enough. We've spent enough. How much have we spent? 1 million gold again. Every time I open the auction house, it's like, oh, yep, spent 1 million. Oops. Wackadoodle, the act of completely unpredictably and ridiculous things in World of Warcraft. Hey man, these professions are totally wackadoodle. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Welcome in, Dirty Irby. Good to see you, my man. This is the wrong hour for you. I'd have expected you to be in bed. Or have you just... I don't know, I can't remember American times. I think we'll leave them there for now. I don't think I need to be doing anything with this for the moment. Let's send some of this stuff out the way. I love the word wackadoodle. It's a proper word there. Proper word. What am I doing with this Solonamore? Why have I got this just kicking about? Let's just guild bank that for now. Let's put it in here. Can't sleep. Oh, I'm in bed though. Oh, okay, fair enough. Hands outside the sheets. Right, I think this realm is about happy. Apart from everything that's about to expire in 10 minutes. Alright, fine. Well, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. Let's check Draenor real quick. Let's, Draenor's actually the realm that I'm most interested in at the moment. Somebody else was saying yesterday as well that our adventures on Draenor is the bit of the stream they also enjoy most. Has any Goblin content creator helped or joined the Blizzard team to help them determine crafting and gold making gameplay in WoW? Not really. Unfortunately, Blizzard doesn't really seem to pay too much attention to the gold making community. You got to remember, we are a real small niche. I mean, we're literally the geeks standing in the corner as far as Blizzard are concerned. Completely unseen by the masses. There's not many people that would, you know, Reckles Want to Buy Gold is probably the most known by Blizzard. He's you know, he's asked his questions at BlizzCon, and the devs at least know who he is. I'm not even sure the devs really pay much attention to anything we have to do or say. Maybe one day. One thing they have done though is they have hired somebody specifically for the purpose of professions and rewards, was I think how they described the job role. So it would be nice to see if that has any impact eventually. The whole community council thing, which is very quickly turning into a bit of a meme, as many, you know, predicted. I don't think there was really any significant representative from the goal-making community in that even, so. They have Rob the Temp write down goal-making ideas on a napkin, take a picture of it and email it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that sounds like the policy. That's pretty spot on. We have a grand total of nothing on the auction house. Okay, time to fix that. It's good that no one looks at us. We can do what we want. Not really. Not so much. Are you buying Corthite for crafting now or stocking for 9.2? I don't have the luxury of being able to stock up on Corthite crystals, and it's not even a gold issue. It's a Corthite crystal issue. It's quite simply the fact that there's just not enough of them in existence. If there was plenty of them kicking about, sure, maybe. But they're already, for at least on the realms that I play on, they're already the bottleneck material. Buying more of them just to hold them in my guild or to hold them in my bags is not even an option, because they just don't exist. I would love to. I would love to stock 10, 20, 30,000 Corthite crystals so that when the zerg of demand for them when 9.2 lands, I'm ready. But I physically can't buy them. They don't exist. It's a real weird situation, just how much of a, not just on a single server either, the Corthite crystals seem to be almost region wide, completely bottlenecked in terms of supply. On Draenor, we're not even there yet. We're not into the legendary game too deep on Draenor anyway, but they need to do something about it now. Mike Ybarra can't boost for gold anymore. Yeah, imagine if he clocked himself a 10-day ban for boosting. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Come get them on Area 52. There's like 8k there. But you know as well as I do, 8,000 Korthite crystals on a realm of that size is literally nothing. Literally nothing. That's what, 200 rank 6s? 200 rank 6s will, you know, that's a Tuesday afternoon. Where's the rest of, you know? There's honestly just not enough Korthite crystals in existence for people to really stock up properly, even if they want to. Bought out all the crystals on my realm. It was 600. Yeah, exactly. I have no idea how. I mean, it's one of those where the sensible thing is actually to just stop selling rank 6s. In a way, continuing to sell rank 6s right now is maybe not necessarily the best idea. This is really high-end goal-making meta here. Probably not suggested, but just straight up halting the sales of all of your rank 6s right now, yet still continuing to buy Korthite crystals in the supply that you would do normally, is probably the best way to do it. That selling them out now for the prices that we're selling them out for now is just almost shooting ourselves in the foot, because we're arguably selling them cheaper than we arguably could or should be. But people's desire for instant gratification gets in the way. I stopped restocking anything more than the rank 4s. Holding on to the supply for 9.2. Yeah, it's like I said, it's that's almost the way I see it. The only thing we don't know though, is how the Vestige of the first ones, Vestige of Eternal is really gonna have an effect on rank 6s. Now, until people have the ability to craft rank 7s, it's pretty safe in saying that rank 6s will still be incredibly expensive. Because everybody will move to Zerif Mortis. Nobody will be farming Korthite crystals. The supply of materials will dry up even more so than it is already, and it will be down to those that already have the materials and or already have the rank 6s crafted to sell their wares and supply people with the base legendaries that they want. But once all of that runs out, then your rank 6s are going to be that of 150, 200,000 gold again. But then hopefully by that point, rank 7 will be available and people will be buying those and building and crafting all of that as well. So it's going to be, it's a bit, the window of opportunity in 9.2 looks to be quite narrow. Narrower than it has been previously. We've kind of, I think, for anybody that's actively in the legendary game, I think we've kind of got quite comfortable with how legendaries just continue to be valuable almost indefinitely. Whereas most other markets don't work like that. Crafter's Mark gear, for example. Crafter's Mark gear is one of those real hot, fire, fast markets. Be the first one to craft them, sell them for a stupid price. 6 weeks later, they sell for cost. Is the average kind of way that it works. Dark Moon cards, super valuable for the first week of the expansion. Those that craft them and sell them and take the risk first see the big rewards. Then they end up being sold for cost. Legendaries is kind of sat in this sort of happy medium throughout the entire expansion, that if you have the top base rank craft, that it will always be profitable. I don't think it's going to be quite the same in 9.2. I think there'll be a huge, like, ridiculous boom when everybody is incentivized to buy their first 2 rank 7s. But I then think legendaries might drop off a cliff real fast. So it's a make hay whilst the sun shines situation, I think, in 9.2. Because we're progressing towards the end of the expansion. And every man and their dog understands that when we, get to the end of an expansion, everything gets crashed. Everything. Because we're moving on to something new. I've kind of stopped selling, and I use max price for rank 5 and 6, which is worth double what the current crystal price is, and have 5,000 crystals in inventory and still need more. Yeah, this is not a bad approach, I don't think. If you're not in the market for, if you don't need those quick turnover, instant gratification sales, to maybe you've recently leveled legendaries and you're desperately trying to recuperate costs. If you're not in that situation, kind of slowing back the amount of rank 6s that you sell right now is maybe not the worst idea. Or maybe I'm just convincing myself I should go play Factorio Satisfactory and City Skylines for a month. And giving myself a good reason to let the auction house just, chill for a while. Maybe I'm trying to justify it to myself, I don't know. Zereth Mortis is the reason why I don't let my Korthite crystals stack fall below 5k, buying them at pretty much any price now. At least it'll be good for a day or two when sales kick in. Yeah, that's it. That's it. If you're prepared, it's like with most things in gold making. If you are prepared, you'll make a boatload of cash, because 95% of this player base, probably more, play in a reactionary fashion. They wait until they see something with their own eyes to react to it. So, it won't be many players will not actually come back to the game until 9.2 launches. Day of 9.2 launch, people will resubscribe, they'll log on their characters, and they'll very quickly realise that, shit, I've still got this rank 3 legendary. My guild has said that we should be, rank 6 geared. And people will panic and they'll go out and buy whatever they need to buy to play catch up. Most people play in that fashion. Hence why we see, on reset day, anybody that sells potions and flasks. People have had all week to buy their potions and flasks, but they don't. They buy their potions and flasks 3 minutes before they're summoned to go to the raid. And how many people have joined into, how many people have got into the instance and somebody's gone, anybody got a long boy? I need some potions. It's people are that reactionary to the game that is where goblins make their money. So if you're even slightly prepared for what's coming, you're literally miles ahead of everybody else. Prices changed in like 30 minutes when 9.1 was announced. I was so shocked. It's it's also very interesting to see. The second we get a release date, then price changes happen almost instantly, yeah. The window for stocking is narrow. It's not even the day of the launch. It's when the release date is announced, things start popping off. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Bought out all the lightless silk for 8 gold a piece on Twisting Nether when they announced 9.1. Made so much gold off it was crazy. The fact that it even got, I remember Taran Mill had 8 gold lightless silk as well. I just wasn't at that point. I was so deep into legendaries at that point that I didn't really have huge amounts of liquid gold, if I remember right. But Guild Wars 2 expansion release date just got leaked. Blizzard also know the Lost Ark release date. I bet they're ready to say their release date for 9.2 now and when to announce the 10.0 trailer. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't really appear, at least recently, if Blizzard care what anybody else is doing. It used to be a big thing. It used to really be a big thing that they would desperately try and avoid clashes with other titles. Or in some scenarios, they were aggressive with it and they would deliberately release something at the same time just to fuck off somebody else. That doesn't really seem to be the way that they tend to do things, though, now. They don't have the luxury of being quite so egotistical about it. They need to get 9.2 in the hands of players quickly. They need to get an announcement of 10.0 out relatively quickly. They can't be playing these mind games with other developers and as such anymore, I don't think. Whilst they'd probably still like to be able to do that, I don't think they're actually... yeah, they're not big enough nowadays to throw that weight around, as Roscoe just said. Thought about getting the last tailoring slots to rank 4. Then I needed another 11,000 silk. There's only 913 available. Oops. Oops. What are we selling? Oh, we're selling lightless silk pouches at cost. That's probably why. If I remember correctly, 915 was really close to Endwalker's release date. Not that it did anything, but hey. 9.1.5 was a really interesting patch. I love the mid-tier patches in Shadowlands. I've made more gold off the mid-tier patches than I have the major patches, which is equally why I'm a bit concerned about stocking up so ridiculously or aggressively for 9.2. Traditionally, I made disgusting amounts of gold off 9.1.5, and I made a huge amount of gold in 9.0.5 as well. Because the 0.5 patches have a weird effect on the player base. They change enough that people needed to go out and buy new things, but they didn't change enough to bring a whole bunch of people back to the game. So the people that were still playing had a huge advantage. There was a massive spike in demand without a massive increase in competition, which meant that I ran away like an absolute bandit in 9.1.5. Changing the meta up, giving people incentive to buy different legendaries, and then throwing the mage. I didn't even cash in on the mage tower, but mage tower was definitely a thing. That's, I think, why some people made just silly money off the mage tower, because they were accidentally already prepared for it. They didn't, they already had all the professions ready from years ago. They just needed to buy some materials, of which were still stupid cheap on the auction house, because nobody really thought the mage tower was going to be a big thing for gold making. Those that subscribe to the YouTube channel knew, though, because we had our video out weeks before the mage tower went live, telling people, buy these materials now, they're basically free. And those that listened made a stack of cash. We didn't quite focus on every material that we could have, but we hit the nail on the head on a few of them. Did a slash ignore on the whole mage tower thing. I should have taken advantage of it more so on realms where I'm still kind of, building a gold factory. But yeah, I could have done a lot more for the mage tower. I just chose not to. This is the nice thing. Once you get to a comfortable amount of gold, once you have a comfortable amount of gold already, you can pick and choose which markets you dive into and which ones you don't. Just like how I know full well that the new Crafter's Mark gear is going to be a really big market in 9.2, because it was in 9.1 and it was in 9.0. The first to the market there is going to, you know, make a stack of cash. But I equally know it's going to be a buttload of effort to do it. And it's like, well, I could put in a buttload of effort, or I could really chill, do the bare minimum that I need to do to continue with legendaries, and then probably still make just as much, if not more. I could take the easy route or the difficult route. Hello. For reference, boys and girls, that was supposedly some sort of vitamin C boostery thing. It was a traditional recipe to cure cheese lung. They know what's up. Apparently it was some blood orange thing. Blood and wine? Hey, it's too early for drinking wine. And it's always too early for drinking blood, let me just clarify. Right, that distracted me. I don't know where we're at now. Are we rich on Draenor yet? Okay, we've cleared through the mailbox. We have 90,000 gold. We've not sold a lot on Draenor in the last few days, you know. Okay. Right, well, I guess what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to go and grab myself a drink that's not super sour. And then I think we should dive in a little bit of detail. I want to talk about this boosting thing, get a bit of a TED talk on the go, discuss it properly. I've delayed doing it for long enough. I think it's time that we dive in and have a chat about this. So give me 2 minutes to go grab a drink. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break before we do so. And then we'll dive into yesterday's big announcements and see if we can get a bit of a discussion on the go. I'll be back with you boys and girls in 2. strippers? Who's ordered strippers? Roscoe, Bone Shatter Waistguard. Righty, it's time to light a fire, I suppose. It's time to light a fire. We might even. Where is it? Where is it? Did I still? I did have it. There it is. Beautiful. So, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room that is that of Blizzard updating their policy regarding organised in-game services. I love how they didn't actually use the word boosting in the title, as if it was going to slip under the radar. But as of yesterday, Blizzard made a huge policy change, monstrous policy change for the retail version of the game, which I wanted to talk about in a little bit of detail today. I've had a bit of time to process and digest some of the things that people have, very off-the-cuff reactions to this. There's been a few threads, obviously, on the Blizzard forums themselves. There was a thread that popped off on the WoW Economy subreddit. I've had a little bit of a look through those. I've watched a few streams, engaged a few opinions, and I wanted to talk about this in a bit of detail today, because I think there's some interesting stuff to talk about. Let's put it that way. So, the first thing we're going to have to do, we're going to have to take a look at what's actually, what is the change? What is the change to the policy? What have they done? So, let's start off by reading it word for word and see if we can break it down and try and understand just how this might potentially change the landscape of the retail version of World of Warcraft going forward. Wow, the YouTube voice, you come prepared. This is not the YouTube voice. Relax. This will absolutely end up on YouTube, but this is not the YouTube voice. I don't have a YouTube voice. It's a myth. Okay, so as the conditions change by which various entities operate in World of Warcraft, we are compelled to update our policies to further our goal, making the gameplay experience as fair and as welcoming as possible. Since we last updated our policies, we've found that an increasing disturbance of the gameplay experience has been caused by organisations excessively advertising various non-traditional services in the game. Very vague to start off with. They're very vague about what they're even talking about, and this is deliberate. But let's move on. So, as of today, we will now prohibit organisations who offer boosting, matchmaking, escrow, and other non-traditional services, including those offered for gold. This is the big thing, right? They're even now clamping down on people offering these services for gold. Previously, to do a comparison, they've usually just kind of taken a bit of a hands-off approach with this. As long as it's for gold, as long as it's not real money transactions, then, it's the natural ecosystem of the game. Go at it, was their approach. They've kind of come to the conclusion now, though, that it's getting a little bit out of hand. So even those situations where people are trading gold for these services, they want to limit the effectiveness and the scale in which this is happening in-game, which I think is a positive thing. World of Warcraft accounts found to be in violation of this policy are subject to account actions. These include warnings, account suspensions, and if necessary, permanent closure of the disruptive World of Warcraft accounts. Organisations operating across multiple realms, this becomes a key feature, and excessively advertising non-traditional in-game sales are contrary to the terms of conditions of the Blizzard End User License Agreement, the EULA. So this is them basically providing themselves an open-ended way in which that they can then reinforce this new policy. They can, at their discretion now, decide as to whether somebody is creating a system that is too superior when offering services to other players, even if it's still within the realms of just gold for service transactions. They deliberately keep these things a little bit vague, so that they have the final say on it. It is their discretion to when they take action on players regarding this. They did something very similar with multi-boxing not so long ago. We will look at the comparison with multi-boxing because it's going to play a big... it's almost... I mean, if you close your eyes or squint at it, it almost looks exactly the same. The way they've approached this is very similar to how they approached multi-boxing. They didn't directly say that you cannot multi-box. They just greatly hindered people's ability to do such, which in turn dilutes the effectiveness or the effect that gameplay has on the overall community of the game. This policy does not, though. This is a key paragraph to look at. This policy update does not restrict individuals or guilds from using the provided in-game tools. Even /2. /2 trade chat has been relatively quiet recently, yet, you know, it's still a tool there for you to use. Does not restrict individual or guilds from using the provided in-game tools to buy or sell in-game items or activities for in-game currency. However, boosting communities, especially those that operate across multiple realms, are no longer permitted. And very interestingly, they go as far as to say that we urge all such organisations to cease doing business in World of Warcraft immediately in order to maintain uninterrupted access to the game. So, whilst they started off with a very softly approach, it gets considerably more serious as it goes through, to the point where they pretty much say you need to stop offering your boosting services in this super high level organized fashion. If you continue to do so, you are likely to be either offered, actioned with warnings, account suspensions, or even permanent banning of the account. This didn't necessarily come out the blue. This got leaked a couple of days ago. I'm not entirely sure how this got leaked a couple of days before it actually went live, but it did. Either way, people kind of suspected this might be a thing, and it's resulted in a huge amount of discussion regarding this. I suppose I should chip in initially with my personal opinion on this and my personal thoughts on this, and then we can open it up to the floor for a bit of a discussion. I can't see this being anything but good for the overall quality of the game. That is not to say there are some people that are going to absolutely despise this change. This will ultimately cause a percentage of the player base to no longer continue playing the game. That is, there is always going to be victims or people caught in the crosshairs, or the crossfire, I should say, when they change policies like this. There are people that have played the game in a very specific way for a long time, and having that entire gameplay mechanic, I guess we could say, removed from them, the rug being pulled out from under their feet, will undoubtedly be enough for them to choose to no longer play the game. Is that strictly a bad thing? I don't know. What I do think, though, is that overall this is going to dramatically aid and improve the community feel that World of Warcraft used to have, but no longer has. I've played the game for long enough to have experienced WoW through many different stages of its game, and it used to be that being part of a guild and server identity and making a name for yourself on your realm was quite an important thing to do. And in recent years, as more and more services have gone cross-realm, as services such as this have become far more simplistic to get your hands on, a lot of that community feel is just completely being bled from the game. Now, it is not entirely the fault of boosting, but boosting was a big contributor to that. Why would any single player feel the need to apply to a guild, you know, work on learning the mechanics of the game, week after week after week, you know, stick to a routine with a bunch of other people to try and kill these bosses. Why would they do all of these hurdles, or why would they try and overcome all of these hurdles when for a very small, you know, financial amount of money in most cases, they could buy a token, give the gold to some person and have them boost them and get instant reward gratification was the very watered down version of what these services were offering. Not allowing people to, or not putting people in a position where they have to, you know, overcome barriers to achieve bigger and better things. Watered down the experience in what is an MMO. In an MMO, you need multiple different types of players. You need really good players, really skilled players that are at the cutting edge of always doing the hardest content, that are grinding forward. They generate a huge demand for consumables. They need the best gear.
Hello there.
They need the best crafted items. There's a whole bunch of things that, you know, they themselves require from the rest of the player base. You have the next level of people. You have the people that are not quite as competitive as that, but still really enjoy this game. They play on a consistent basis. They're maybe part of a guild, but they're not a guild that is pushing mythic progression. They're just kind of enjoying the different aspects of the game. And then you have the more, using a word I hate to use, but the casual of the player base, the people that maybe don't push from a competitive side of things, but still enjoy World of Warcraft for all that it has to offer. They're usually the people that will far more enjoy leveling up different alts, playing different classes, collecting different items in the game, maybe playing with professions. I myself find myself, I fit into a category, a very small category of people who enjoy just playing with professions and making gold in the game. Many people watching this live will also agree with me that, you know, we kind of sit in a we're our own little niche within the game as it stands. We're not necessarily always, and I should also clarify, it's entirely possible to fit into many of these different categories, but the middle category of the casual player base is what makes an MMO feel like an MMO. And if you start offering people ways to skip over that stage, it causes problems long term, I think. But personally, I think this can only be a good change. It equally, I feel, is only the first change. This is the first big thing that they're changing. I would expect to see smaller iterations on this as we go forward. Blizzard's got to chop the head off the Hydra to see, you know, how things pan out after this is a thing. The skeptics out there are already sort of brainstorming what might happen in regards to things like token prices and whether boosting will still be as prominent as it is. It will just go underground. We don't really know at this point. But at least in my personal opinion, I think this can only be a massive advantage for the game, and I'm glad to see that Blizzard had the cojones, the balls to actually go ahead with this, because without question, to kill the boosting community is actually going to cost Blizzard an awful lot of money, as huge amounts of the token sales were incentivized by people needing the gold to pay for the boosts that they wanted, that will now not necessarily be as easy to come by. So, with my point of view put out there, let's open it up a little bit to the chat. Let's see what people have got to say about this. We saw it with multi-boxing. People will test the boundaries and try and circumvent the new rules. It's human nature. Yeah, loopholes. Oh my god. There will definitely be people that will try and create and jump through as many loopholes as possible with this. And only in that regard, only time will tell kind of what happens with any of that. Like I said, this is not banning multi-box. This is not banning boosting. This is just making it far less organized, far less accessible, and sort of re-establishing those hurdles for people to achieve things, quote unquote, in the correct way. Serious guilds would check your kills to see if you got boosted or not. I'm sure that, yeah, if you're trying to apply to a guild and your logs per se says that yes, you got cutting edge on your first attempt on that boss, then they might be sus. That's true. I can understand why people get boosted, but I really feel like it attacks the core of what makes the game. I think that's a good perspective to have. And this is the thing, right? For as long as there is something that players feel is outside the realm of them being able to normally achieve, they will find easier ways to achieve it. This is why I think some of the arguments for this are completely valid. For example, there's the example that I've seen thrown around many times already is that of the player that doesn't have so much time to play the game. They don't have time to join a guild or to progress and get better in the game because they play it, so infrequently. That they would be a prime candidate for buying a boost to achieve the things that they normally wouldn't be able to. But whilst I feel that is entirely a valid position to be in, I equally don't know if they're really such a valuable player to have in an MMO in the first place. No offense to whoever that hypothetical person is, but realistically, an MMO is built around, or should have a foundation of an economy and a community. This is why raid logging is not really... People raid logging is not really great for the game in any way, shape or form. People logging in, throwing busy people under the bus. I mean, how do I phrase this without it being like really gross? But in an MMO, the expectation is that you at least play the game a certain amount. I mean, that's arguably why. I mean, I don't know. At a foundational level, if you want the best things, you need to put the effort in to get the best things. Is the way that I always look at it. There shouldn't be any free meals in this game. In a game that it's on 24/7, it's competitive. If people get handed out free meals, it really detracts from the achievements of those who have put the time and the effort in to get those things. This is the thing, right? And this is why I believe that Blizzard hasn't taken the approach of boosting is banned. They've done this softly approach to begin with, saying, right, these super duper organized, fundamentally businesses are no longer, no longer sensible to have in the game. That their effect on the game is so drastic that we need to control this a little bit. It's not so much about free meals, such as a low percentage who can make big money in WoW. Some of the people who buy the boosts are using many months just to buy one boost. It's difficult. It's difficult because what we can never really gain a good grasp on, we can't gain a good grasp on just how many people this actually affects. We know that, it was a big enough thing for these organized companies, Huracan, Nova, in the EU you've got Sylvanas as well. There's a few of them. I've never really paid too much attention to them myself personally, but there was enough demand for these boosting services, for these almost companies to get super duper organized and streamline the entire process as much as they have. There wouldn't be so much time and effort put into it by people if there wasn't demand for it. But at the same time, was there a huge demand for these boosting and these matchmaking services because it was very easy? Because it was made super, super easy. All you had to do was whisper a single person that was constantly spamming in chat. Say that you wanted a mythic plus 15 boost, and within an hour you'd be in a group with a bunch of people, and you'd have that done. They made it as painless and as simple as possible, which probably directly attracted more people to do it. If it wasn't as simple to do, would there have been a lot less people that would have engaged with these boosting communities in the first place? I don't even know. Check the number of the members in their Discords, you'll get an idea. It wasn't exactly small. Well, that's true. These Discords had tens of thousands of people in them. The amount of gold that changes hands with these boosting organizations, though, was just absolutely ludicrous. But that will still happen. Guilds are allowed. I know many of the EU communities have already set up over 40 guilds. I think the problem is that might not last as much as you. Because I would imagine, now I'm gonna, I have to preface this by saying I don't have true experience of this, but I would imagine most of the people that offer the boosting services were already, I mean, for somebody to be able to boost somebody else through an aspect of the game, there is one requirement there. You've got to be pretty geared, and you've got to be at least pretty skilled in whatever it is you're doing. Okay, so there's two requirements there. Those players probably only got to that point by being in some form of organized guild or group content primarily. I can't imagine they're going to have much of a desire to leave that bunch of friends, to leave that guild that they're a part of, to join a purely boosting guild, just as it's a loophole, right? But creating these boosting companies, creating guilds on all of the big realms to offer the same thing through the guild, it feels very loopholey, and it's simply because they've stated here that guilds can still do it, sure, but that feels just like a loophole, and I feel it's a loophole that probably won't really get very far, because these guilds will struggle to keep people. Just like gold making guilds don't work. Gold making guilds don't work because they're in direct competition with each other. Boosting guilds, solely boosting guilds, will probably suffer the same consequences. That people might not necessarily have the desire to be in them. It'll be the big guild, the big proper actual guilds on any given server that will take the reins with this. Your Echoes, your Methods, your Big Dumb Guild, your whoever, your what's Limit nowadays? Limit's not Limit anymore, is it? Liquid. These are the guilds that are all going to just take the reins with this, rather than they will then just be the ones that provide the boosts on those realms. I think is probably how it'll end up being. Boosts have always been around for sure, but I don't think we've ever had a time where it's had such a huge impact as now. There's a Blizzard sanctioned way to convert real money to boosts. I mean, I don't even particularly want to get too deep into the RMT side of things, or how these boosts were funded, because that's almost a different topic of conversation in itself. But I'm relatively sure in saying that, well, to break it down very simply, huge amounts of gold was transferring hands because of this. The thing I have an issue with is getting grouped up with strangers for a ward to get a false sense of achievement. I've bought a Mythic N'Zoth boost to get the mount, so I didn't need to farm it later when the drop rate changed. However, I've put together a group of individuals clearing +20s for that sense of achievement that we got when playing together and getting to know each other, etc. Like actually playing an MMO. An MMO is not a single player game. Yeah, this is it. If the sense of achievement can be artificially created, it's detrimental to their own longevity in playing the game. If somebody can just take $20 out their back pocket, buy a token, and achieve the thing that they want in the game, then next month, what's their incentive to continue playing the game? Almost none. They've achieved, and this is why pay to win is actually relatively dangerous from a development point of view anyway. Game manufacturers, for the most part, don't want their games to be pay to win, because then once somebody has paid, they win, and then they have less of a desire to try and win again, and they leave and they go do something else. Blizzard understand retention probably better than almost any other gaming developer out there. They've had this game, this World of Warcraft game, that has been, for the majority of the last almost 2 decades, the most popular, the most successful MMO. They've only been able to achieve that by maintaining their player base for years on end. Sure, you can make a quick buck by having pay-to-win systems in a video game, but ultimately, game developers probably understand that it is more financially beneficial to them to keep those players playing their games than it is to just allow them to buy the achievement and then peace out. There was a big community who got banned because of real money transferring. So many millions of gold was lost from the WoW economy. Well, not too long ago, Gallywix got sort of, caught up in that, and it got exposed that they were dealing with RMT. And so hence was shut down very quickly. But the millions of gold that was lost from the economy made almost zero impact on the economy, because the money that was just circling through these boosting organizations never filtered its way to the rest of the player base. So it doesn't really have much of an overall effect, I don't think. For me, the reward of clearing current content is the reward for all that effort, or finding a guild or working together, developing as a player and reaching a goal. See, this is it. This is what I talk about. This is what I talk about when I say that sort of middle structure. You've got the foundation of, just the general player base. You've got that middle section of the game where those people that want to achieve more, and they've had up until this change, they've had basically one of two options. If they want to, take the game at a more serious level, they want to progress through, they want to get better gear, they want to get they want to get the latest and greatest mounts as soon as they become available. Those sorts of players had two options. They either try and find a guild that works on their schedule, fight through the pug world to build a good maybe Raider.io score or Mythic Plus score or whatever, really have to grind their way up very slowly, or take $20 out their back pocket and get it instantly. That was the two options. Now, I totally agree, there needs to be a middle option there, but that middle option, or the natural progression up through this game, will be a smoother process when there's more people engaging with it. You know, we for the longest of time have not really seen pug raiding. Pug raiding's almost, I mean, not entirely, there are still people that do it, but pug raiding is almost dead compared to what it was a couple of years ago, before this boosting got quite as organized as it did. Because why in the world would you fight your way through a pug raid when you could just buy a boost almost instantly for I mean, what were like heroic Sylvanas kills was like 50k. You do your callings for a few days, you can pay for that. Actually having the gold to afford these things was not really so much of an issue. I'm going to get logged out if I'm not careful. Hang on. Like I said, it's not that pugs don't exist. Pugs are still definitely a thing. But in comparative quantities and availability to compared to what they used to be, when the only viable option for players, if they wanted to do higher tier content, was to join a guild that was doing that or to try and pug it, there was a good pugging community. Sure, it was still annoying as all hell. The better option will always still be just, you know, find a like-minded group of people and do it with them. That's still always going to be the better option. But instead of those two options, in came boosting. Boosting became so easy that it was the path of least resistance to so many players. And it never gave people a reason to try and do these other things. It never gave people a reason to be part of a community, to take that extra step to try and join a guild. And I think that's been like sorely missed in the last couple of expansions. No, there doesn't need to be another option. You're not entitled to get the loot or the achievements or whatever just by paying the sub. You don't want to compromise the work and work out a schedule to join a guild and kill all the bosses. You don't get the reward. Why is that taboo? Well, that's where the pugging scene should come in, right? The pugging scene should be the middle ground. Yes, I entirely agree. If you don't put the effort in, you shouldn't get the reward in any way, shape, or form. But the path of least resistance shouldn't be buying a token and then giving that token's worth of gold to somebody for them to basically hand you that achievement. That shouldn't be that certainly shouldn't be an option. And it's apparent that Blizzard also feel that probably shouldn't be the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance should be trying to join a pickup group. And then when you join a pickup group, you realize that, well, actually, this is, although it's getting me into the content, it's remarkably difficult to achieve things because we do actually need a level of organization that is above what this pug has to offer. Maybe then there's my incentive after trying that to then actually try and join a guild, find that group of players that share a common goal. Pugged up to 6 out of 10 mythic, not so bad if you know how to play and people remember your name. Well, see, that's the thing, right? You like, even pugging, you are able to, you know, make a name for yourself. And if you're pugging mythic, then you have to be doing it, I presume, because obviously mythic is primarily, at least for a good period of time, locked to on a server by server basis. Then that you know, that is including yourself within the community of the game. Pug requires certain item level and IO score. You can't get that item level or score unless you get into the groups. Yeah, but when people are turning up with falsified IO scores, fake IDs as such, that a fake ID doesn't benefit anybody apart from the person that gets away with having the fake ID. And getting your IO score boosted by boosting is like walking into a pug with a fake ID. if anything else, you become an even greater level of hindrance to everybody else because you don't know your ass from your elbow. At least if you've pugged it a few times and tried to learn the mechanics of the thing, you might all together somehow maybe progress forwards. I didn't particularly want to turn this too much into a conversation purely about, you know, pugging, but I think that pugging has its place in the game. You know, a group of people at any given point wanting to achieve something, so they get together to you know, to battle it out, even if they're not super organized in how they do it. That should be the first stepping stone that people take to try and engage with that content. The first option and the path of least resistance shouldn't be giving gold to somebody else and have them just hand it to you, which I think is what this service sort of, or this policy update does a good job, I think, of removing. It won't remove boosting. Boosting will still be a thing. You'll still most likely be able to speak to that representative in that guild on your realm that has the ability to bring 1 or 2 players along with them in their raid every week, to generate the guild a bit of, you know, revenue, to get a few people a bit of gear, but it keeps it a lot more local. People will then, you know, if you offer boosting services and you don't deliver on them, or you try and scam somebody for their gold, because it's all very local, you're going to get blacklisted before you can blink. Nobody will then, you know, you're only shooting yourself. When it's kept a lot more local, it will still be available. It just won't be the first and the easiest option, which I think is good. It's dumb if people have only done a +2 want to join a +15. +5 and then +8 to grow your score. Mythic plus pugging, I think, Mythic plus boosting and pugging is a weird one, because there is actually a progression path with Mythic plus, more so than I think there is even with raiding, and more so that, you know, there's more emphasis on. I think with Mythic plus, there's more of an emphasis on each individual player pulling their weight. Even in a group of 20 people, it's much easier to make a mistake or two and have it, you know, oops, I stood in the fire for an extra second. Well, it doesn't matter, the healer's got me, kind of thing. I don't even remember the last time I saw anybody even care about rating in the slightest below a 13 plus. Look what you've done to the chat. We're at each other's throats. Hey, this is what it does to people, right? This is what it does to people. But this passion is good for the game. Like, having people that are passionate about the game, whether it be passionate in a how people, you know, how people express that passion doesn't always look good, but even anger is the foundation of anger is usually based on passion somewhere. Who's the real enemy here? We were all fine before Manthius mentioned boosting. Let's get him, boys. I'll just turn off the stream. It's easy game. I'll go dark for a few weeks. And we haven't even started on the cross-faction stuff yet for the Alliance. Oh, God. Sure. Somehow I managed to switch this on to Mythic Plus progression, but I don't know how I did that. But yeah, I don't think, and I'm relatively safe in saying that although I mentioned that this policy update is probably there will be people caught in the crossfire of this. there are arguably going to be some people that their entire play style of the game was built upon, they would log in, they would boost people, the gold they would make from boosting people, they would then use to boost their ults and to gear themselves up even further. And they were just caught in this loop, this boosting loop. Those are players that are probably going to get slapped by this a little bit, because now their way to play the game has been rug has literally been pulled from underneath them. They now can no longer do that anywhere near as efficiently as what they could previously. Sure, they could try and start their own thing. Expect an influx of baby goblins. But this is, I suppose this is one tangent that we can go down and we can probably have a reasonable discussion about, because it's something we're all, for the most part at least, quite knowledgeable on. An influx of baby goblins is not an unrealistic expectation, because there is a huge amount of the player base that would have funded their ability to play the game by doing the odd boost here and there. They would have generated a few 100,000 gold here or there by boosting, which would cover the cost of their consumables, their repairs, their new gear each patch, maybe cover the cost of their legendary. Now those very same players, it's basically like they're it's like they had to take a dramatic pay cut. They're going to have to try and work out how to make that gold in a different way. There's obviously two options. They either look at what are the alternatives to make gold, or they buy tokens. It depends, it depends what type of player they end up being, but there is a very good chance that we will see an influx of people trying to get into gold making, because their primary source of gold will have just been removed from them. The inherent risk to not Blizzard supported RMT to your personal details, yet alone your... Okay, I don't know what we're getting at with that. There's also a blue post that follows up. Hang on. There's a blue post that's also worth reading through. It provides some further clarifications. Do we have that, Woo? Do we have a link? Or if somebody has, I mean, I assume it's not in this, right? Because this got locked within minutes. The second they posted this, they locked this down good and tight. They knew what was coming. It was in one of the replies at the top of the general discussion this morning. We might have a look for that in a minute. I was watching a guy yesterday who plays a lot of Mythic Plus and helps his viewers. Has no gold, bought a token for his Lego. Did a few boosts on the side. Yeah, like I said, there's one of two options for most people. Read the comments. No. No, they locked this down good and proper. We're not going there. If you take Random Joe, he lives for boosting. He wants to buy X boost. He can't do that for his gold in game, but he has 100 USD lying about. He just goes to a boosting site, buys a boost. The boosting site says create an LFG group saying X, Y, and Z, and we'll join that group. Right now, that's just a pug, but he paid 100 USD. Yeah, situations like that are always going to exist. You can't get rid of situations like that, but that's also their own prerogative. Oh, Wowhead have highlighted it. Okay. I clicked that. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. I'm clicking links from chat. That's always dangerous. Oh, okay. Added some Blizzard clarifications. This change is not prohibiting the practice of boosting. Guilds can still sell carries. It only prohibits the organisation of boosting communities, especially those that are operating on multiple realms. Blizzard has provided some clarification on the subject. According to Blizzard, the policy is aimed to crack down on the middleman entities that profit off purely linking boosters to buyers. Yeah, the agencies, the middlemen, yeah. I believe cross-realm boosting is disallowed unless I read it wrong. Organisations who disruptively advertise across all realms and establish escrow services are the primary target for this policy update. Guilds and individuals who are inviting players from other realms to join them in traditional gaming activities in exchange for gold is still allowed, just as they were before. Would that include things like GDKP runs, where players benefit financially off others? I mean, GDKP runs have surely not been a thing for like years, right? Not in retail, at least. It depends on the definition of financially. If it means in exchange for gold without a middleman entity, that sounds like the same sort of guild activities players have been enjoying for 17 years, which are not the focus of this policy update. Sure. Makes sense. Gonna be so many materials when they all start farming in 9.2. Hey. I mean, one thing this does is, like I said, it creates the cycle of an economy on any given realm, right? You have, for example, the top-end Mythic Raiders, the top-end plus 20 Mythic Pluses, the top-end Gladiator PvPers now have to fund their activities in the game. They are probably the people that were offering the boosting services for the most part. Their easiest way of making gold in the game was very straightforward. They boost people through stuff, and it was super easy for them to do it for the fact that they could just, you know, say, hi, look at me, I've got lots of gear, I can boost people, and some agency, some boosting community would constantly supply them with people that need boosting. They'd take a cut, they'd get rich off it. GG, well played. Those players now either have to buy tokens to get the gold that they need. That's their path of least resistance, assuming they have the IRL funds to do so. Or they have to get their ass out into the real world and earn some actual gold in-game. So that then brings them into the economy a lot more. Now, I think that can only be a good thing, surely. Look what's happened with Korthite crystals, for example. The big reason Korthite crystals are steadily rising in price is because there's nobody farming the damn things. If all of these, you know, all of these mythic, high-end mythic players that are geared to the teeth, if they're the ones that are hoovering up these rank 6s like crazy people, but none of them are out there farming for the materials to get those rank 6s. They're just buying them off the auction house. And it's causing a disparity between the supply of materials. I know I'm trying to link this back to gold making in some way, shape or form to keep it on track, but leather's going to be so cheap, the boosters are bloodlust killers. They would not be interested in picking up flowers. I'm sure. But yeah, it's interesting to see that they are deliberately trying to focus this to those agencies, those middlemen. You know, the people that, whilst they appear to have, and this is one thing, this is an opinion that has not changed. I've always had this opinion on boosting. I have no issues with people offering their expertise to other players in return for gold in the game. I have no issue with that at all. I have no issue if you're a player that wishes to purchase the expertise of another player in exchange for gold. I think those two individuals are perfectly content doing whatever they want to do. It's their own prerogative to do that. The problem is the middleman that sits in the middle, that's taking their cut off the top every single time. those are the ones that A, were getting redonkulously wealthy in game, and were also super incentivized to try and cash out that gold for IRL funds at some point. And that's where the RMT happens. One of two main conclusions from a goblin point of view. One, more goblins in the market. Two, more incentive to move to high pops. Well, yeah. Yeah, the incentive to move to a high population server now is just even greater than it ever once was. If you were, now I'm not entirely convinced there are that many of these category of players in the first place, but if you were or are a player on a lower population server that would often use these boosting communities as a way to achieve things that aren't necessarily straightforward and easy for you to do because you're on a low population server, then sure, you might be a bit annoyed by this, because the likelihood is that you're going to have to move to a higher population server to do it the quote unquote more natural way. But like I said, I'm still not entirely sure there's a huge amount of those types of people anyway. Top 10 material farms for unemployed boosters. Student video. Please tell me that's actually a video. Please tell me he's actually made that video. That'll make me giggle. For unemployed boosters. The downside, though, the downside of this, and it's probably, the downside, I think, is that how do I phrase this? What it does do is it pushes boosting a lot more underground, I think. Like I said, this isn't banning boosting, but it very much like the multi-boxing thing. It pushes the whole system a lot more underground, and it incentivizes people to take it off platform even more than it already is. These boosting communities have already got Discords with tens of thousands of members in them. Now, obviously, up until this change, they were just, advertising that willy-nilly through trade chat as a form of marketing. They might just have to get a little bit more creative with how they market it. It would not surprise me if we start seeing boosting communities, maybe running 24/7 Twitch streams, as a method of advertising. They'll get more creative with how they advertise their services. If they can't directly do it so easily in game, they just need to get somebody. They just need to hook a fish once, and then once they've got them hooked and they're part of their Discord server or something, then it can all go on perfectly as it usually did behind closed doors. It does also have the downside that anybody that wishes to continue either offering boosts or seeks out the services of boosters, there's an inherent greater risk involved now. The nice thing of having these, hugely organized boosting communities was the safety aspect of it. There was far less likelihood of you getting scammed for your gold, because these communities had a reputation to uphold. This is equally why these communities went far out of their way to dismiss any claims of RMT, and I would imagine anybody caught offering real money transaction based boosting was removed from the community very quickly. That's not to say that RMT didn't still exist in these, but it would probably only exist if, you know, the people at the top of the tree are getting their cut of that all the same. So it does, the natural knock-on of this is that because boosting is still a thing, and it will always be a thing, it just does go a little bit more dark. It goes a little bit more underground, a little bit more risky for people to both offer and engage with. Want to sell Drums of Ferocity, 90k? I think, who was it? Somebody tweeted out something very similar to that yesterday. Want to sell Flask for 600k. Willing to help you test it out in a plus 15 of your choice or something. I saw somebody tweet that out yesterday. For example, pieces. With communities gone, you can now use your gold with your favorite guild directly. Join our Discord. We promise not to spam trade or disturb your gameplay. See, there we go. There we go. It will just fall into the hands of the big name guilds. The big name guilds will just have they'll have a boost. I mean, the big guilds out there, I'd be amazed if they don't have somebody that takes control of the boosting in the first place. I'm quite sure the big name guilds, whilst boosting was a good source of revenue for them, I equally think they would still happily pay the commission for somebody else to deal with it, you know, because they're a top guild. They're dealing with other stuff already. Now it will just be that these big guilds, they'll probably, you know, just every time they're doing a raid, once or twice a week, they'll just bring in a bunch of people. They'll all just do it in-house. They'll continue to offer it all in-house, and it'll be, you know, if anything, it'll be business as normal for these big guilds. It's something that could be quite interesting. Is it's very obvious that these big guilds out there, the Race to World first level guilds, were primarily utilizing these boosting communities. Not necessarily for their boosting services as such, but as, like, you know, almost loan sharks. Because it was safe to say that the boosting communities at any given point probably had many millions, if not billions, of gold distributed across the entire game, and at a moment's notice could, you know, transfer that to the right person. I'm sure these big guilds were using these boosting communities for the purpose of easy access to gear on other realms, for example. Method spent £7,000 on Eternal Palace through Gallywix. I mean, there's so much controversy in that one sentence. I don't even know where to start. But literally every other word of that sentence has got controversy attached to it. A few of the top-end guilds did not want to boost, but they kind of had to, either to actually pay for the BOEs or consumables, or do it a bit to keep the facade of not buying gold with real money. Like I said, boost, like, even the big guilds don't want to boost. They genuinely don't want to boost. Like, they don't play the game to do that. Most of these big, like, they live and breathe on progression raiding. Once the progression's over, the last thing they want to be doing is killing the bosses again. Farm weeks is probably the last thing these players want to be doing. Not to mention, the more, as time's gone on, and the greater the amount of... I mean, the Race to World First starts literally months before the patch even goes live at this point. You know, the amount of hours that those... especially the officers in those guilds, I would imagine the amount of hours the officers in those guilds are putting into, you know, just scouting out and learning absolutely everything. I bet they live on a PTR, just constantly working things out, you know, they probably put twice as much effort into the preparation than they do the actual, you know, when it comes to the 2 weeks of actually smashing your face against the boss, that's probably the easy bit. I would imagine in today's standards, that's the easy bit. Once the raid is out and they can start attacking the bosses, that's probably the easy bit. Everything that goes into it before so is probably the hard work. And by the time they kill the boss, it's just like Alt F4, uninstall, delete. They want to rest by that point. The last thing they want to be doing is offering boosts week on out. Roger Brown can boost me any day for a mil. I'd screenshot the living heck out of that. He's a character, is Roger. He is indeed. But I think we're at kind of the point now where we at least for the focused discussion on this, we can kind of put this to bed. Generally, I don't think there's any single person in existence that can look at this and truly say that this is bad for the game. There is, without doubt, this is a huge benefit to the game overall. Yes, there are some people that will disagree with it, but they probably disagree with it more so for the fact that they were sort of benefiting from it in some way, shape or form to begin with, and are more salty about the fact that their easy win has been taken away from them. That's always going to happen. But generally speaking, for the overall health and quality of the game, I can't see this being anything but good. I'm just going to be very interested to see A, what loopholes turn up, B, how well, if at all, Blizzard will ultimately enforce this, and C, what we are going to see from Blizzard down the line to aid with this. Like I said at the beginning, I genuinely believe this is just this is the first stepping stone. Just like we saw with multi-boxing. They had to make a policy change with multi-boxing. It pissed a bunch of people off. They then had to wait for all of the loopholes to appear to try and work out what people were going to do and to see how much of an effect it had, for them to then step in with a further policy change to tighten up all of those loopholes, to put us in a position now where multi-boxing still exists, but it has far less of an impact on the game as a whole. I'm relatively happy to put that to bed now. I'd very much like to thank everybody that's casting their opinions on this. It's one of those topics of conversation that you can think about it, but there will always be somebody that will look at it from a different perspective to you. Somebody from the guild just sent some screenshots from the Nova Discord. A lot of the boost channels, now the announcement channel and the guild recruitment channels have left. So funny. Yeah, the likelihood is that those communities, it will be rocky for a few days until they work out what they're doing. The real question is, during all of that shenanigans, did we sell anything? We were selling item level 87 gear. Well, apparently, all of the boosters are now leveling alts, look. Okay. We can live with that. Now, that wasn't the only topic of conversation that turned up yesterday. That wasn't the only big news we had yesterday. The other big piece of news was that they are finally looking to implement, after years of people requesting it, cross-faction instanced play, which is kind of cool. Let me see if I can find the developer notes for this one. Here we go. Posted by Ian Hazakostis himself, the man, the myth, the legend at this point. We've not seen much from Ian for a while. He's he's gone dark. Yeah, sure, cookies, whatever. The cross-faction idea I welcome. I mean, I from day one have had the opinion of this, of that they can't afford to not do this. They actually can't afford to not do it. So you know, it's simple maths at the forefront that you can't. There's not enough players to just cut everybody in half to begin with. But anyway, what are we talking about? There was a development preview that came out yesterday. Cross-faction instances. So this is not, you know, Horde and the Alliance are not necessarily going to be having birthday parties with each other, but there is going to be more ability for Horde to be playing with the Alliance in organised content by the looks of things. So for years now, many players have questioned whether the rules restricting communication and cooperation between the Alliance and the Horde needs to be so absolute. The faction divide could keep close friends from being able to play together, or cause players to feel that their faction leaves them with far fewer opportunities to pursue their favourite group content. But the downsides have long been justified in order to preserve a central element of the Warcraft universe. It all began with a game titled Warcraft Orcs and Humans. But, to quote a one-time war chief of the Horde, times change. So, pleased to announce that we are working on adding the ability for Alliance and Horde players to form pre-made parties together for dungeons, raids, and rated PvP. There have been 2 decades worth of code and content crafted with the assumption that parties can only have players of a single faction, and while we want to make this feature available as soon as possible, the extent of this change means that it couldn't be ready in time for the upcoming Eternity's End content update. Instead, we're planning to test and release it as part of a subsequent 9.2.5 update. Well, 9.2.5 confirmed, boys and girls. As I was saying earlier, I tend to make far more gold in the 0.5 patches than I do in the major content patches. So I'm in for a cash cow. I'm in for a big win. 9.2.5 confirmed, boys and girls. If we take anything from this. We are eager to hear feedback on the details that we're sharing today and on the details of our implementation when this feature becomes available to the public test realms following the release of Eternity's End. In crafting the rule set for this new feature, we were guided by 2 major goals. Focus on organised instanced gameplay, so not real outer world stuff. Dungeons, raids, rated PvP have been at the centre for the most compelling arguments for relaxing the faction divide. This is content that by definition requires a pre-made group, and the social barriers will have the greatest negative impact on people's ability to access these experiences on their preferred teams. So now we're going to see orcs in chat. Yuck. It's I think it's good that they're, this is obviously the obvious way to do it for sure, but I think it's good that they're keeping it to instance-based content, like organized levels of group content, rather than just it, I mean, they built a wall. They can't knock that wall down completely straight away. 9.2.5, 3 Legos. Three Lego. What do we think then? We're getting off topic really quickly here, but 3 Legos in 9.2.5, or alternatively, what if they remove the restriction for the second legendary having to be the Covenant one? Just as everybody spent all of that gold on getting their rank 7 Unity, they tell everybody that actually now you don't need it. Now you can craft the one you really want to craft. That would be a win. I'd take that. I'd take that just as much as I'd take 3 Legos. Saw one comment complaining that it's going to be weird to see a random orc in his Alliance pug. I'm like, I rarely look at the player's name and class level, never, let alone the race. Tank, healer, or DPS, that's all I care about, yeah. Now I suspect Blizzard is trying to give boosters a level playing field by killing them all. Otherwise the chat will be want to buy boost, no alliance boosters. Oh god. We mixing the two topics together now. I guess we should, I suppose. For some further guidelines, make this an opt-in feature as much as possible. So, if you really dislike the Alliance, or you're not a fan of those filthy hordes, you can still, you know, keep your opinions, and you can restrict yourself based on your own opinions. Fucking hell, this is Brexit all over again, isn't it? In terms of in-world fiction and player preferences, there are decades of I can't say this word to overcome. We are excited to offer players the choice to reach across the faction divide and cooperate to overcome common foes. We know that there are many who will react waringly to this change, and we don't want to override those preferences. This is about increasing options for players. It makes sense. I mean, if you want to be Alliance for life, and you cannot, it makes you sick to your stomach to think about talking to an orc, then you can continue to have that opinion if you wish, but it's going to arguably be a restriction that you place on yourself. It's not going to be a restriction that's enforced on everybody, which is kind of cool. These guidelines led us to the following system. Players will be able to directly invite players of the opposite faction to a party if you have battle tag or real ID friendship, or if you are members of a cross-faction WoW community. Are they going to use this to try and push the WoW community thing more? Sure, okay. The WoW community, does it? Okay. I've got I don't know what. I've got 90 odd people here. I can ask. I can do a quick instant poll. Is there anybody that actively engages in any of the WoW in-game WoW communities? Really? Aren't they just like? It's just Discords, right? Nope. Big fat yeah. There are a few yeses. We have a few yeses in chat. Very, very, very rarely. Member of a couple, but no. They're good for M+. Part of an M+ pug community at the beginning of Shadowlands. Okay, so there's a few. There's a few, but they are few and far between. This I think is quite a strong requirement. But this will work. This will work. You know, I tell you what, streamers are gonna love the fuck out of this. Streamers are gonna love this. No longer is it like, oh, yeah, gonna put together a raid. Oh, yeah, by the way, Alliance only. 3 people sign up for it. Having, you know, battle tag, real ID friend is a good start. That's for sure. Have you spoke about the reagent price change with the new upcoming crafting reagents, like protogenic pelt? Reagent price changes. Either you know something I don't know yet, or I have no idea what you're talking about. I think they're both the same thing, aren't they? Easy answer, no, not yet. Easy answer, no. Pre-made groups in the group finder listing for Mythic Dungeons, raids, or rated arena RBGs will be open to applicants of both factions. Through the although the group leader may choose to restrict the listing to the same faction applicants if they so choose. So are we going to be in a position where there'll be Mythic plus Horde only groups, because we don't want those Alliance scum, because those Alliance have never run a Mythic plus in their life and have no idea how to run a Mythic plus. So we're just going to assume their ship and not even allow them to. What is this? I mean, you either do it or you don't, right? This is I'm going to build a wall and I'm going to make the Mexicans pay for it again. This is not right. Where's the one for all mentality here? Nobody's going to care. We just want to get the key done. True. Alliance has some strong racials. True that. 100%, although I'll say it's half truth and half meme. Having leveled both factions this expansion, Alliance dungeons can be wild. Oh god. Has the faction divide been that bad for so long? Maybe it has. Guilds will... This is an important feature though. Guilds will still remain single faction. A random match-made activities like heroic dungeons, skirmishes, or random battlegrounds will all still remain same faction. Both because there is less faction-driven pressure around random groups, and to avoid compromising the opt-in nature of the feature by randomly placing an orc in a group with a night elf. Alright. I actually think that although this is something that people might push back against, I actually think this is really good. This is really good because this only adds to incentivize players. This gives another reason. It gives another reason for players to take that step into organized content. Your LFR, your instant heroic Q button, they should be, you know, they should be the first stepping stone for when you're trying to get a grasp of things. But you should have good reasons to, you know, make that step up. If you're playing Alliance and your heroic dungeons are still, you know, annoying to get into because there's no Alliance players, then you have an incentive, right? Well, actually, if I put together my own Mythic 0 or Mythic Plus group, then, you know, there's more players, you know. I think it's good. I think this, like I said, I think this will be a bit of a... This will probably be the contentious point here, that guilds will still remain single faction. But I genuinely think overall that it will be good. How often do you reckon we'll see, though, like, 2 guilds... Will we see a situation now where there'll be 2 echoes and 2 limits, liquids, and, you know, are we going to find 2 of the same guild on the same realm so that they can have an Alliance guild and a Horde guild to double dip and get the best of both worlds? I can only imagine that's going to be a thing, right? Because like somebody said, some of the racials are actually worth going for. There's going to be 10 Nova guilds on each realm soon? Probably not. Human racial for human rep racial? Yeah, true. Bring a dwarf for boss X, an orc for boss Y. Could be. Could be. Probably the race to world firsts are truly degenerates. Well, this is it. You give those players... You give those players an inch and they'll take a mile. They will go so far out of their way. They'll go double deep degenerate gameplay if they can gain a 0.5% advantage. Faction and race change $. I don't think it will be faction and race changes. It will be that, you know, Roger Brown will just have 2 of every character. Genji will be running around with 2 hunters. Oh, he's mostly playing mage nowadays, I think, isn't he? I don't know. Either way, I think it's probable that we'll start to see the big guilds having an Alliance guild and a Horde guild. And eventually, it will probably get to the point where they complain enough that Blizzard will cave and just make guilds dual faction as well eventually. But initially, I think that the competitive players will probably just double up their guilds. You can never have too many hunters. That is true. That is true. Any spare weapons going? I remember the first raid in BFA when Limit swapped to Alliance to do 25 Horde kills, then swapped back to Horde. they got 1 heroic item for it. Yeah, they will do 7 levels of disgusting things just to get an advantage. It's funny to see it happen though. The levels that they will go to, like they are very well known for like leveling professions to max to craft 1 item to then drop the profession, and the entire guild will do that. You know, at the cost of millions of gold. They will do some crazy things when they need to. Once in a party together, members of the opposite faction will remain unfriendly while in the outdoor world, and fully hostile if in war mode, as they do today. So, you imagine that, you fly in to do a Mythic Plus. You fly into the dungeon to do a Mythic Plus, and you see a Horde you see an Alliance character, or you see a Horde character, and you just instantly let fire on them and nuke them into the ground, then only to realise that actually they're in your party. Now you have to wait for them. Oh dear. Invite people, kill them, then kick them. Bait groups. Look, you guys are already finding ways to abuse the system. Oh god. Oh god. LFR Sylvanas is an experience though. Not done it. Don't plan to do it. Even though I main a hunter, not doing it. The reason to have war mode on always. Oh dear. Is it even legal to go into a dungeon with a gnome? Yeah, it's legal. Maybe not advisable. That's how you're going to do the 25 enemy faction kill quest now. That's going to be hilarious. They'll make it so that quest doesn't, you know, grant... You can't gain progression in that. Just like how you can't gain quest progression whilst in a raid group. They'll just knock it down to, you know. Although, they will be able to communicate with each other through chat. So not only will you be able to dumpster in world PvP your own teammates, you will then be able to teabag them and tell them such in party chat. That's kind of cool. Upon entering a dungeon, raid, or rated PvP match, however, all members will become friendly and able to assist each other in combat, trade loot, it's an interesting one, and earn shared achievements, and otherwise fully cooperate in the same way members of the same faction have always been able to. A major goal in announcing this feature in advance is to make sure we're capturing all the expectations and requirements for this to be a smooth experience, and giving you fuckwits time to come up with all of these stupid exploits and ways to break the system so that they can patch them up before they become a thing. A group raiding, doing Mythic Plus keys, or chasing higher PvP rating should be able to operate seamlessly whether they are in the same faction or a cross-faction group. In theory. In theory. When I played Alliance, there was 2 of us that would kick a leather ball to the gnome in our group. He couldn't move as he was stuck in a backflip loop. God. Trade loot must be that you can trade loot from the dungeon itself, not like a flask if they're lazy or cheap. See, that's my assumption. I would imagine, you know, I would imagine normal loot rules apply. That if it's not an upgrade for you, you will be able to trade it. I'm sure there's definitely going to be some scenarios where there's an advantage to be had somewhere along the lines. Like I said, I mean, they've even said it themselves, right? They're telling us about this in advance so that they can gauge where the exploits are going to be, so they can patch the holes before they become a thing. This functionality will also apply to legacy instances and is available at all levels, although there will be several older instances that cross-faction parties cannot enter, at least for now. BOD, TOTC, Icecrown Citadel. Yeah, gunship battle's not going to work great, is it? When you're on 2 different ships. Yeah, that's not going to work very well. A handful of others that similarly have extensive faction-specific components that will have to be reworked to support cross-faction parties. Calling it now. All the things transmog fellas. All the things transmog collectors. There will be significant changes to loot tables when this happens. For those that love themselves an unobtainable item, this will probably cause loot tables on a lot of these old raids to change significantly. I don't know how many of that applies, how many of you that applies to, but it's something to think of. You know, get the goblin brain thinking, or twice as many things. Well, that's also another option. But there is a strong likelihood that they'll get stuff that will get lost to the void in this change. There is likely to be those that have read so far with some unease, worried that this is chipping away at a foundational principle of Warcraft. At BlizzCon 2019, when an attendee asked about cross-faction play, we responded at the time with Alliance and Horde separation is a pillar of what makes Warcraft Warcraft. But upon reflection, that's an oversimplification. Why will Blizzard never just say they're wrong? An oversimplification, sure. Alliance and Horde identity is what is fundamental to Warcraft. And while at times that identity has been one of division and open conflict, we've seen Alliance and Horde finding common ground and working together ever since Warcraft 3. You know, what's quite interesting is if you were to remove the words Alliance and Horde and add in the words boys and girls, males and females, it still applies. But Blizzard is working on things, right? Blizzard is working on things. We're hopeful that these changes will serve to actually strengthen faction identity by allowing more players to play the faction whose values, aesthetics and characters they find more compelling, rather than feeling forced to choose between their personal preference and their ability to play with friends. Another good example of how I genuinely think this can be nothing more than a good thing. There's nothing more frustrating than, you know, players that share the same goal not being able to play together because one's Horde and one's Alliance. As I said at the very beginning of this, there is not enough players in the game to split everybody in half before you even begin. Back in the days when there was many millions more players, you could split the game in half and then there would still be millions of players for you to play with, and so it wasn't a problem. Now though, when there's not quite as many players, it does make a lot more sense that they let, you know, they drop the barrier a little bit. Following the events of Battle for Azeroth, the Alliance and Horde are poised in an uneasy armistice. Is that how you pronounce that word? I don't know. The factions still stand apart, and even some of their leaders cooperate in the Shadowlands. Countless members of each faction will neither forgive nor forget the wartime actions of the other. For every Jaina, there is again that seems unlikely to change anytime soon. But why shouldn't players be able to make that choice for themselves? Especially in cooperative settings where the story revolves around coming together to overcome dire threats. I love how Blizzard put all this guff at the end. I mean, I know there's for the Horde and there's for the Alliance and stuff, but it's a game. Fucking relax. I think it's good, though. I think it's good. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback on the feature, both now and once it arrives for testing on the 9.2.5 PTR. We will see you in Azeroth. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm not reading the comments. I'm telling you now. For starters, there's 762 of them, so we'd be here till a week on Monday if I tried. But I think it's good. I mean, how can once again, Two very easy wins as far as I'm concerned by Blizzard there. Two very easy wins. Not even one small comment. Top 5 comments. You lot are narcissists. Unbelievable. You guys see what the comments do to me. Unbelievable. Alright, small comment. Small comment. First page. No more than the first page. Oh! Oh! 2 replies. Oh no, 700 replies. What? Okay. Does the system include the ability to keep night elves? Literally the first one. Oh god. Literally the first one. At long last. Agreed. Biased as hell. Thank you, Blizzard. From a character named Boostings. Thank you for this. Holy cow, you guys banned Boost and now this all in the same day. Is it Christmas? Finally, back to the Alliance, folks. So close and a miss. Without guilds, this is pretty pointless. Where's the downvote button? Idiot. Let's go. It's happening. I see this is all tame. This is all tame. This is fine. This is fine. Yeah, we need to find that outrage. Where's the this is bullshit, I'm unsubbing. Where's that guy? There's always that guy. When the general consensus is positive, I feel something's up. You know, you kind of get itchy where you know when it feels just too right. You're like, Bro, wake up. You took a hard fall. Cross-faction gameplay. Multi-boxes banned. Boosting communities prohibited. Stop talking madness. We have islands to farm. So if you don't want Dirty Alliance or Horde players in your groups, you can just reject them. Lovely. Right. Well, I think it's actually all relatively safe. I think it's fine. Oh, God. Here we go. Here we go. How did it devolve into multi-boxing's not banned? Of course. Of course. Oh, multi-boxers, relax, please. Please, relax. I mean, I used to love me some multi-boxing. But genuinely, one category of people that is arguably the most salty, like literally dipped in pure salt, is the passionate multi-box community. Just give up. This is how you run a fishing game? Eh? $10, I already have friends excited to come home to Alliance. And we're getting the Mythic Plus squad ready for the patch. The RBG community is just waking up to the news now, and I feel it's going to be just as much consistent pinging for the next few hours. Do we think that might happen? Do we think there's a huge amount of Horde players that will re-roll Alliance now just because they can? Probably. Did Blizzard fix the faction imbalance in one swoop? What a waste of a comment section. Where's the madness? Where's the insanity? Nerf shadow meld. Of course. There it is. We're getting there. This all seems to be Uneasingly positive. Uneasingly positive. Well, I guess Blizzard needs a cheeky free win occasionally, right? That free win has got to come from somewhere. It's got to be. It's got to be a thing. Fine. Right. Well, we checked the notes. It's all gravy. We'll put that to bed now. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, we've been logged out. That's what's going on. The reaction to our recent announcement of cross-faction gameplay was too positive. As such, we have tightened the coming rules. Yes. By the way, 9.2.5 when? I would guess after 9.2. Just a guess, though. I think we need a 10.0 announcement now. People are hyped. See, sometimes Blizzard don't get enough credit. They don't get enough credit because what they've done is they've dropped these two massive bombshells that will probably even go as far as to make it into national news. Or at least it will spread around the gaming community like wildfire. And guess what? It'll all be just in time for them to do a 9.2 announcement date. Just in time to bring a whole flood of people back. It's all some very clever marketing. Love me some clever marketing. And Blizzard are genuinely, whilst they have to, you know, they an NFT announcement. Oh god, have to, you know, two positives counteracted by a massive negative. Is that what we're going with this? Is that the direction we're going to take it? A 9.2 date and a 10-point announcement soon. It's got to be, right? It's got to be. Login servers were full yesterday. I actually had to wait to get into the game. Either a lot of people logging in or boosters DDoSing Blizzard. One of the two. Yeah. Would be fitting for the speculation of 10.0 being Light versus Void, so Alliance and Horde can fight against them together. Do we think it's been planned all along? Do we think this is all a ruse? Do we think that this had fuck all to do with community feedback? This was all planned. This was all, you know, this was on the cards for years. Blizzard actually planning to introduce a third faction. Yeah, so Horde and Alliance versus the furries. That would be fitting, wouldn't it? Horde and Alliance join forces to battle the furries. I bet that the 9.2 date will be next week. They'll let the good news spread around a little bit before giving a date. Worgen, Pandaren and Vulpera faction. What you got against furries? I ain't got nothing against furries. I find furries incredibly amusing. Their dedication to become a funny cat dog creature is impressive. The Night Elves feel betrayed because of the lack of action from the Alliance and separate to create the Night Warriors. Oh god, we're getting into leak territory now. We're getting into leak territory. We got to leave Mr. GM to cover all the leaks. An alien race in the shape of Doritos and cheese sticks. Yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, permanent debuff. Cheese long. Cheese long. Incoming debuff. It's going to get you, and it's going to get you hard. I am slightly intrigued. I'm not going to lie. I am slightly intrigued to what Wowhead has had to say about all of this. Usually they tend to have something to say. Where's me? Class changes, legendaries, flying in Zereth Mortis. Highlights of this week's changes on the PTR 6 minutes ago. Have we had a new PTR patch? Or is this them just reiterating on what we already know? Time to review the best of this week's changes. Okay, so they're just, they're double dipping on. Yeah, okay, they're double dipping on. They're redoing, they've ran out of articles to post, and so they're copy pasting old articles, I see. Oh, Lunar Festival's live. Do we have anything to do with Lunar Festival? We might do, Oh, the Lunar Festival's been up a few days. Well, what do you know? All the things streaming coming. I don't even have all the things turned on this account, so that's interesting. Tauren Demon Hunters? Yuck. Outrageous. IGN interview with Ian Hazzikostas on cross-faction grouping. Less focus on faction war going forward. What's this then? What's this then? In an interview with IGN, game director Ian Hazzikostas shared his thoughts on the newly announced plan to enable cross-faction grouping for dungeons, raids, and PvP in Shadowlands. So this is interesting. Ian's been in the I almost said in the closet. Ian's been in the dark for quite a while. We've not heard or seen much of him recently. It's interesting to see him coming forward and talking about all of this. Cross-faction guilds made full interview on IGN. Yeah, sure, cookies, whatever. World of Warcraft will allow Horde and Alliance players to play together at last. Blizzard announced today an update that is currently in the works that will allow Alliance and Horde players to form parties together for dungeons, raid, blah blah blah. We know this, we know. The shift is, by necessity, somewhat limited in scope. It has to be. World of Warcraft has always followed its Warcraft heritage in dividing the Alliance and Horde into warring factions. In fact, the majority of the game is built on and around that divide. Yeah. Where's the interview with Ian? We've been revisiting things we've said no to people in the community have asked for. And one of them has been the desire for cross-faction play. Ian Hazzikostas began to compare it to Star Wars, suggesting that in a Star Wars game you wouldn't let Jedi and Sith cooperate. But then he corrects, saying that example is actually quite different. Well, I love IGN. Can you tell? It's not the world we want to build, but it's also not the world we've really been building or the story we've been telling for the last 20 years going back to Warcraft 3. At the end of the day, it was about factions coming together to defeat Archimonde to stop the major threats to our world. Okay. Another big reason for the changes happening now is because of how communication outside of World of Warcraft has changed over the years. 17 years ago, people met their online friends and communities through the game, and thus through their factions, but increasingly over the years that's changed radically. I love how they try and find these reasons to justify their choice into, submitting. Why can they not just say that, you're right, we want to let you play together? Why do they have to come up with this guff that, times have changed and all of this? Is it just, am I just too cynical about this stuff? But, why can they not just turn around and go, yeah, you're right, that, we want to just let more people play with each other? Coming up with this bullshit about, our game used to be the hub, used to be the crux in people's social circle. Now everybody's on a Discord together, or they're watching some random dude stream on the internet. If he just said, you're right, that's it, interview over in 2 seconds. Yeah, but this isn't a YouTube video that you got to push it to the 8-minute mark. This is an interview. Random dude or dudette. True. Dude or dudette. Or anything in between. This is 2022. Just say everybody is Horde and 1%'s on Alliance is kind of not able to play the game. Yeah. We frankly probably reached the tipping point a little while ago, but again, in a game like this, we're stubborn and traditionalists, and it's scary to say, let's uproot this foundational pillar of what a game has been for over a decade, but it's time. It's time! Hazukosis wants to emphasize that at least for now, Blizzard isn't ready to jump to extremes like eliminating factions entirely and letting a bunch of humans into Orgrimmar. That would undermine Azeroth's shared reality. But by keeping it focused on cooperative play, it allows players to define their own boundaries for faction identity, while also conveniently letting them play with friends who just happen to be that of the opposing faction. Fair? Fair. Alright. I'm sure there's not really much to glean from this. This is a convenient interview to help push the free marketing. I get it. Nice. Nice. I like. Next expansion, humans in Orgrimmar. Goblins taking all of the banking jobs in Stormwind. Those goblins coming in and taking all our jobs. Unbelievable behaviour. Unbelievable. Right. I'm in danger of getting too deep into playing the game at this point. I've got stuff to do, unfortunately, boys and girls, so I think I'm going to leave the stream there for today. I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to talk and discuss, considering these are two of the biggest announcements I think we've had in quite a while. And yes, thank you all for joining and sharing your input. So that's why I like to stream. I get to see firsthand
Let's make sweet profit
the opinions
together.
of others, which can often differ from your own greatly. So, more Prime Gamings. There we go. Thank you very much. Love me some Bezos bucks. Thank you. Just got home early from work to here, so this will be it today. Sorry. I know my stream schedule is not super great for most, but the entire stream will be up on the YouTube VOD channel today, Mantheus TV. It'll be up on there within a couple of hours, assuming Twitch's servers are up to speed. Plus, there's a good chance that a couple of these topics of conversation, I'll chop them down for some YouTube videos. Maybe not necessarily going out today because I'm busy. I've got stuff to do, but maybe they'll hit the YouTube tomorrow. But enjoy the rest of your day, boys and girls. If you're out and about, take a look at /2. See what's going on in trade chat. See if it's a desolate Baron or whether it's party mode in trade chat on your realm. It'd be interesting to see. But we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be reset day. Reset day is usually a good day to get some stuff done, make some gold, and generally have a blast. So I'll love you and leave you for today, boys and girls. Thank you once again for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have fun, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.